at 14, our guy, the Broncos. Man, that's going to be eating a lot of money for the quarterback, Russ Wilson, if he's not playing, but maybe you let him sit for a year, this quarterback we're about to talk about here. Josh, where in July did you have Shedeur Sanders grade-wise? And he is the guy that you have going now 14th overall to the Broncos.
Well, I'll be honest. He was one of the ones that I hadn't really watched coming into the year. I was kind of waiting to see how he was going to fare against a little bit better competition. And to this point, I've been encouraged. I still have some hesitations in certain aspects of his game. But I think you've seen a player that is operating with a lot of confidence. I think you have to give a lot of credit to that offensive coordinator as well and what he was able to scheme up in that opener. I thought he did a lot of really good things. He was taking what the defense was giving to him. You can see the amount of leadership that he has shown. You can see the command that he has of that huddle, because it's not easy being Deion Sanders' son. Coming into this, everybody knew who Shedeur Sanders was because he was Deion's son. So there was a lot of pressure for him to operate in that offense. He was given the keys to be the starter in that offense before he ever took a snap. Before he even transferred, he was going to be the starting quarterback at the University of Colorado. So that, to me, I think shows the amount of leadership, the amount of moxie that he has at the position. And I think that's incredibly valuable when you're making that jump to the next level.
So, Josh, let me ask you, and then, Rick, I want you to respond to Josh's answer. What are the concerns you have with Shedeur?
I didn't think the processing was as good as what we had seen in the first game. I thought that he missed a few throws, and a little bit of that was just lower mechanics, stuff that he can get cleaned up pretty easily. But that was the biggest thing. I think he's got a few wrinkles that he needs to clean up, but somebody that can certainly operate in the pocket and make good decisions with the football.
Yeah, no concerns. I thought first half against Nebraska wasn't what we saw at TCU. But again, Nebraska was doing some different things on defense. And what I look at, I gave him credit for the way he played in the second half because they made the corrections at halftime. They made some of the adjustments. He was able to go out there and execute those adjustments they made, and then had a great second half against Nebraska. So to me, that was a positive on maybe struggling a little bit in the first half, making the adjustments you need to make to a new defense and a new scheme and the way they were trying to attack them, and then go out there and execute it in the second half.
So, Rick, how do you feel about Shedeur as QB4, number one, and number two, how do you feel about him going 14th, too high, too low? What do you think?
I think he's right where he needs to be right now, the way he's performed the first 2 weeks. Now, there's a long season ahead. Be interesting to see how other teams try to defend him. But I have to say that he also has a lot of pretty talented weapons around him too, as well.
Absolutely. And it's so funny. And Josh, I'm interested in what you think, and Rick too. A year ago, we were having to squint to sort of see the good plays that Will Levis was able to make because he struggled for a lot of reasons. Partly he was injured, offensive line, so on and so forth. You don't have to squint to see Shedeur. It's pretty obvious, and it's pretty consistent over the course of these two games.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you see a little bit more consistency than what we had seen from Levis last year. We did make a lot of excuses for him. Sanders, to this point, has risen to the occasion. I mean, like I said, there was a lot of pressure on him coming into the year. Not only was he transferring to Colorado, but that roster is almost entirely rebuilt. I mean, he's got new players everywhere you look. They didn't all come from Jackson State. They were coming all over from college football. So he's had to acclimate to some of these new weapons that he's working with, an offensive line that he hadn't previously worked with. So there was a lot of moving parts. And to this point, I'm encouraged with the way that he's handled it.
What do you think, Rick?
I agree. I mean, the biggest thing that tells me that it's not too big for this kid, and with all the pressure that was put on him, Dad, how do you think that you would have responded? God forbid, who knows how that would have went, Ryan?
I can tell you how it would have gone. Terribly.
That's Deion Sanders, and he's talking you up like you're the next coming of Joe Montana, and you go out there and live up to those expectations.
You know what's funny, Rick? I remember this like it was yesterday, and I'm no spring chicken like you are, but I remember sitting in the back seat of the car coming home from Little League, and my dad was this big burly guy who was a helicopter pilot in the Marines, and he said to me as an 11-year-old, he said, "You are way too slow you should be much faster for your age. I'm like, hey, you know who my father is, right, dude? So if I had been put out there against TCU and or Nebraska, they would be calling, I don't want to say Jeff Sims 2.0, but they would have said, you're worse than Jeff Sims. Too soon.